mistakes, silly games of second guessing. I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn, because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I had today. I took a walk one street over from my home, cracked and broken asphalt everywhere. I could have ended up just like that broken road, with a dead end in my path. Thank the Lord that I've got more than that. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second
I'm neutral LaVern. This is
guessing.
one street
I won't
over.
forget
Keep
the
going.
lessons
Here
that
is
I don't deserve, because one street over there's a life I could have known that would have kept me from the one I love
You know, and it's
today.
one of those things that, man, we brain desperately.
One street over there's a life I could have known. Things aren't always
We
as
turned
they
the
seem.
camera on that, and you said something about Dixie County.
Yes.
It's like, oh, gotta get used to it.
Gotta get used to that.
His first day was 1st of December, correct?
Right.
So you're still just kind of, kind of settling in.
Settling in.
Yeah.
It's been good.
Yeah.
I think we talked last time. It's an unusual time to swap districts in the middle of the year. That usually transitions happen between, the end of the school year.
Sure.
And that's not just for directors. That's for teachers, that people that move and different things like that. But it's been a good time. The December break was a good time to come in. Met a lot of people. Reacquainted myself with several people. Visited schools and stuff like that. And then you got the little break. You got a chance to catch your breath a little bit, just a few minutes. But we have been busy during the holidays and still learning, still planning. And that's a lot of what the director of school's job is planning and organizing and getting ready. We're planning for next year right today. We're having several meetings scheduled planning for next year.
It's so funny because that's something that I have learned being in the school system now is how far in advance you have to plan.
Right.
It's you don't try to change things for the upcoming months because, oh my goodness, I mean, we're already next year and kind of looking even to the next.
We do things like that. Yeah, we've posted some jobs. We know there's some folks already notified us that they may be taking leave next year or not coming back for whatever reason. And so, we've started that recruiting process already. We started posting some jobs for next year. So it is a full-time, just, planning and preparation job.
Yeah, it's a lot to it. And it's so funny. I had a gentleman in here yesterday, Jeffrey Jocelyn, and he has his degree in audio video and is a movie maker. And a musician. Fascinating young man in his 30s. And I told him, I said, I think the school district would probably love to talk to you because I know that the program I'm doing at Greenbrier, they would like to take it to the other schools. Now, I said, I don't know a plan of action. I think I've heard things about they would love to have it at Springfield, different things like that. But I said, I think you need to talk to Mr. Gregory.
There you go.
So I'm going to put him in touch because, he's a gem. He is a gem. And when you find people like that, you're like, have you thought about working in the schools? And that's something. The day after Christmas, that morning, my husband and I, we came in and did the show, and we talked a lot about the CTE program and retiring into teaching. And have you ever thought about that? Because we're not burned out. We're ready to go. And the kids keep us young.
Yeah,
and
they do.
I just love it. And but anyway, Dr. Danny Weeks is in the house, and we were talking a little bit about your adjustment to having a paramedic in the family during Christmas. That's an adjustment, isn't it? And we were talking about the holidays and stuff. Sure. And so this is your first year to have to kind of deal with those emergency management type schedules.
Just swapping around, I hate to call it a non-traditional holiday because it's, I value those traditions and value what it is, but the gathering of the family together, is quite different for us this time.
Well, and I was Paul Rainey's on here, and he's a 41-year veteran of the Nashville Metro Fire, and I learned from them. And I just want to share this because I think so much we just make it what it is, guys. You embrace what you've got, and
Right.
being a boy mama, I get first dibs at all my kiddos now for the holidays. I get to give the first gift and all the kind of things before they get tired, and it's kind of nice. So anyway, you just embrace those changes. You embrace the changes in the new school year. You embrace the changes just in life, and you just go, "What you got for me, God? Let's go." And so, what happened last night at the meeting? How are things?
Well, another quick meeting, and
Okay.
I really value that with our board. I think they have that concern for what's going on in the school system, but they also have that trust in our administration of, you guys are taking care of the day-to-day business, and I believe that's the role of the board. Is I think we spoke last time, is to hire a director of schools, and then the director of schools manages the corporation, if you would, and again. Robertson County Schools is one of the largest employers in the county, and taking care of lots of moving parts, everything from transportation, food service, health services, obviously instruction, and taking care of those. So last night, there were 2 or 3 action items that I think, that I'd like to just kind of touch on. We try to help families by planning calendars out as far in advance as we possibly can do.
Right.
And so, I know there are a lot of school systems, and even when I was going to school, you kind of waited till the summer to see what the calendar was going to look like this year. So many people take quick little vacations, longer weekends, different things like that, and the school calendar looks differently. And so for what our listeners might not understand today is we have to do 180 days. It doesn't matter when we start. It doesn't matter when we end. And, as you talk to people that are our age that maybe went to school, they said, well, I don't remember having a fall break. I don't remember having a spring break, or I don't remember having so long. Well, state law requires that we calendar 180 days. So it doesn't matter if we start on July 1st and go 180 days, or it doesn't matter if we start, traditionally we start that first week of August. We try to plan our calendar to end before Memorial Day. And so scheduling the 180 days in there, and then with our system being on a block schedule, as much as possible, you try to schedule 90 days in the fall, 90 days in the spring. And so as we do that, again, there are a lot of half semester classes. So splitting that 90 days up into quarters, 45 days, 45 days. And then there are a lot of state laws that also govern our calendar. We can't be in school while elections are going on. So if we're voting polls. So we're taking a look at the calendars. And so last night, sometime last year, fall break was scheduled, and it was a little strange. There was 1 week, October 7, 8, 9, and 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11, and then one more day was tacked on to the end of that, so it made a 6-day fall break, which, there's nothing wrong with giving breaks and things like that, but it just really completely disrupted that next week. And so as we looked at that, I recommended to the board last night that we take that Monday back and use that as a school day, and we'd have another inclement weather day. So the board approved a revision to the 24-25 calendar, and it was just a 1-day change. That it's the actual date's October 16th, and we're going to publicize this all over our website and get the word out. But changing that calendar so that becomes a full week of school again, and not really disruptive. I know a lot of families are, depend on the school calendar and plan their lives around the school calendar. When we're on breaks, when we're not, and things of that nature. So we looked at the October 24 change. So again, it's not going to affect starting dates, fall break dates, and things like that, but it is going to affect that just that 1 day of school. It's also good that our I think as our families look at calendars, they can see when report cards are coming out. They can see when we get progress reports for students, so they can know how their children are doing in school. And if they need to schedule parent-teacher conferences, they can get in. We can provide that remediation. So looking at the calendar, having some built-in days for teachers such as you that, need some time to review data, to gather their materials, to plan for that next 6 weeks, 9 weeks period, whatever it happens to be. And so building those dates into the calendar so that there are a good amount of breaks, a good amount of time for concentrated study. But again, meeting all those letters of the law of, you've got to be in school so many days before the TCAP tests are given and before the end of course tests are given. So, a lot of people have questions about how the calendar is developed and things. So we we send a survey to all of our staff and let them provide input to that. We also we have a box on our website that people can make comments. Why are we in school this day? Why are we not in school that day? And they can ask questions about that. But again, we're trying to develop that calendar out a year ahead so that people can plan. And actually, we're going to try to approve the 25-26 calendar at our next meeting, so that 2 years from now, we're going to know when our calendar's set and when people will be on breaks, and so that they can plan their lives around things like that without taking students from school and missing school.
And that's good. And I mean, it's one of those things that my husband and I are still adjusting to. Oh, that's a holiday. This is
Right.
a professional development day. This is this day and that day. And people do not realize this is something that when it comes to teaching, you're just constantly planning. And it is, there's so much. When those kids are in your care, you're like, man, you've got to know, because they don't. They're demanding.
Yeah.
It's stuff. My friend Muriel Barnett, who taught for years and years and years. I think you probably know her, but she was in her last year when I first started, and maybe the first week after I had been in the classroom, I was like, "You can't take your eyes off of them." And she's like, "Yeah." And it was just so funny. I was like, "You can't turn your back." And it was just so funny, because I mean, I was a little overwhelmed, but it was wonderful.
And particularly as a first year teacher, you may not know how to plan and how much time certain activities take, and so you may have the best plans laid out and working on those, and then the kids may zip right through a thing that you might have thought would take 20 or 30 minutes, right? And so having those plans, so it is lesson planning, design planning, and we look at that from a district level of saying, we want to try to, as much as possible, get a full 45 days in each one of those quarters. It's not perfect. The calendar, holidays fall on different days, elections are certain days of the years and things like that. So, but for the most part, again, it's for the convenience of our parents to have that. We plan the best calendar we can academically so that our students are getting the maximum instructional time that they possibly can. But we also, again, want to help our parents understand the importance of attendance at school. And so they can plan, right now to say, I can plan my October 24th quick getaway during that week of October 7th, to be able to do that and make hotel arrangements or flight arrangements, driving, whatever it is. It needs to,
book ahead.
Absolutely. So again, we've looked at the 24-25 calendar, and we'll be also considering the 25-26 calendar at our February meeting. So we may have that out there.
Is there any chance that we've had traditionally breaks at these certain times. Is there any chance that there would be an adjustment to match like districts in some of the other counties? Has there ever been a look at that, or are we just like where we are? And I say that simply because my grandkids are in another county.
Right.
And so I was like, I wish we were on the same breaks. Is
Right.
there any consideration to adjusting that in the future?
Well, we as directors do share our calendars with each other. Robertson County being a little unique, all school systems are not on the quarter system or on block scheduling, and so that makes that a little more tricky. We were talking about Dixon earlier. I came from Dixon County. When I went there was a true 2-week fall break, and so you had that 2 weeks in there, and they had a remediation time. So that if your students were behind during one of those weeks of school, provided some tutoring at school where students could come and get that. But again, when you take 10 days out, you got to accommodate for those 10 days somewhere else. So you got to build those in. So a lot of times we were starting on July 31st or, August 1st. And, we hear that comment a lot, that it seems like we start earlier every year. And, basically I think people feel comfortable knowing we're going to start the first week of August. Sometime that week.
Right.
We're going to end as best we can before Memorial Day, because you don't want to go on that long weekend and then have to come back on a Tuesday or something like that. So we try to build in at least one holiday per month, and we try to build in some professional time for teachers and staff to plan.
And we need it.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, at least once a quarter.
I need it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every minute I can get, somebody go, okay, what am I doing? And Aaron Slade is saying, as a parent and husband of a teacher, he loves the school schedule, and he tells people all the time, I can't think of a better profession for a working mom just because of the work-life balance and that the schedule allows. And amen to that. I think that's just wonderful. And I have so many friends within my teaching community now that are working moms, and it's so fun to watch them. I'm a grandma now, so I'm like, and it's fun to watch these young mothers,
Right.
and juggling it all and getting it done and doing it so beautifully. I had one other question. Okay, so we're in inclement weather.
Yes.
Let's talk about that while we're talking about schedule. How many days do we have built in for bad weather?
Okay.
Or is that built in? Is there like a hard, fast rule? We've got this many days if we have to have them.
There is.
Okay.
And so the state allows us up to 13 days.
Oh, wow.
To build in for those times. It's been a long time since any of us have used 13 days. I think it was maybe 7-8 years ago. There was a pretty big ice storm and things like that we used most of those days. But the calendar for 24-25, we have 12 built in inclement weather days.
Okay.
And so again,
you lost that one day you were talking
right,
about.
we took that day, right.
Right.
And so, and also as we give, we have the ability to give more professional development time to teachers if we want to. So if I wanted to use a couple of those days and say we'd like to use those for professional development, we can do those. But, we take it very seriously we close when we believe safety is an issue, when our buses cannot travel, when our parents and students cannot travel. And, sometimes there are damages to buildings, that we might not could be in a building. And so we have the ability to use those banked snow days. And, a lot of people, again, don't understand that concept. It's almost like insurance. You build up the extra time by going that 30 minutes extra every day, and then you're building or banking 13 days out of that. And so how we choose to calendar that and how we choose to use that is how that falls. And so, there are a lot of people that say, well, maybe it didn't snow at all last year. It only snowed a day or two. So why don't we take 10 days off? Well, the state doesn't allow us to do that. Just like if we, pay our insurance at home and we don't have any accidents, we don't get our money back. It's just, it's that ability to bank it and to use it as needed. We've been through the trends, and the pendulum has gone both directions. We've sometimes said, well, we're not gonna build in any snow days, and then that's the year it snows 10 or 15 days,
Right,
and you have to. I remember as a student, we even had to, you had to go some Saturdays and had to go extend the school year and things like that, and that's not good for anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really
mess
serving
it up.
time, right? And so. We think the calendar is really balanced well enough to be able to provide some of those days and to allow us to have that insurance policy if we need it. I noticed several schools in East Tennessee were closed this morning because of the high winds and the weather that was predicted to come in last night. And, we sometimes do have to make weather calls based on the predictions that are out there. And, that's sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong.
Well, and we have Monday. We're going to be off for Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. And then have you looked at the forecast for the first part of next week?
I have. I've looked at that as well.
So we're talking, there was at one point I saw a prediction of a low, like a -3.
Right.
And it reminds me, it gives me a little bit of a callback to the polar vortex we had last year that killed all the ivy on I had just gardening nightmare. I got to talk to the Corbins about that, but what I need to do. But yeah, we're looking at some pretty cold temperatures next week.
Yeah.
And so that could affect us, right?
It easily could affect us, yeah.
For sure.
You
try to put kids out at the bus stop and it's 0.
Right. We look at those wind chill factors an awful lot about how students have to stand out and wait on buses and things.
Sure.
And on days like that, we if we are going to school, we try to our rule now is we like students to be out at the bus stops waiting for the bus.
Right.
But sometimes during times like that, we'll tell our bus drivers, you be a little more gracious as we, have students stay inside their homes and then walk to the bus stops as they're coming out. So, we do take those things into consideration. If a student's not safe, if a student's not comfortable, they're going to have a hard time learning when they get to school.
Well, and I've had to do, I typically do my bus duty in the winter. I don't know why, but I do. Well, for one thing, I'm being a new teacher. I'm in the middle of my second year, guys. So I'm just still kind of like a deer in the headlights. But at the first of the year, I'm just kind of, I need to just zero in on what I'm doing. And so I feel like I'm kind of got my rhythm a little bit more as we get into the winter. And so that's when I typically do bus duty. And man, I did bus duty last year on some super cold days, and we left the kids in the building.
Right.
And
Right.
as the buses would pull up, we'd zoom them out. And you had to. And so
Mm-hmm.
you make adjustments. But we're talking with Dr. Danny Weeks. He is our director of schools here in Robertson County in his second month here, and continuing just to, get acclimated. But because you've got such a rich history here, I mean, your bride has been here the entire time. Annette, everybody knows her at the district office, and y'all have a house in Greenbrier, and it's coming home for you.
It is, and
Truly.
it is, and I'll go ahead and just mention that. Has nothing to do with the board meeting last night, but I had an opportunity to visit with the Retired Teachers Association yesterday
Cool.
at
Okay.
lunch,
Yeah.
and so all the teachers who retire from not just Robertson County, but any school system that live here in Robertson County, they meet every other month and have a lunch meal together, and then have some sort of program. Well, I was the program yesterday. Not that it was it was anything more than just a welcome back. What are some goals? What are some things you'd like to do? But it was so heartwarming to come back and see people I taught with. I think I counted 7 of my teachers that were there,
Wow.
and
Yeah.
so being able to see them and talk to them and see what they were doing now in their lives, and how they've progressed. There are a lot of them still subbing, so I said,
Yeah.
there were some that said they came back and subbed every now and then, but it was good to be with the retired teachers, and it's good for them to gather and still, they still have that love for kids. You don't lose that when you walk away from the classroom, and so I think there were probably 45, maybe 40, 45 people there gathered for
Oh,
lunch
wow.
yesterday and had a good conversation, and just talked, and it was good to see people. There were several that I taught with, several that I knew just, from being in the county that long and things like that. So it was really a good time. And again, anybody that's out there, whether you've taught Robertson County or not, you can call our office and get information about it, or call the officers of the association. They really do a good job, and just a good time of networking and friendships, and people that you work with for 30 years, you develop lifelong friendships. So that was a good time yesterday as well.
Very good. Very good talking with Dr. Danny Weeks. We're going to continue our conversation, but let's pause for a second and talk about one of our sponsors. Let's take a moment, and we're going to talk about Mr. Perry's Music. I went by last night. I was driving by the house right there on 41, and man, the lights were on. It was kind of late. I worked late last night, and they were getting going with their new semester, because this is a new semester for them. They work on the school semester with their music classes, their band classes. You can be in a rock band or whatever, music, you're interested in. What's really cool though, and something I've talked to Perry, is somebody will come in and they'll think, I want to play drums. And then they pick up a guitar and, oh, this is my thing. I've got one of his students in my class I've had in audio video before, an amazing musician. I love to see these kids come alive when you put the right instrument in their hands and they're like, oh my goodness, I can do this. Talking with Jeffrey Jocelyn yesterday and his background in music, kids that have got a musical inclination, man, they need to get into this early. And one of my biggest struggles playing music my whole life and singing and doing all those things is I never had a group to work with. And when you can come together and collaborate, and so I've never really embraced it because I never really had that. If you want to give your kids the gift of music, now's the time to do it. Semester's just started. I'm not sure how. I'll talk to Perry and find out how many slots they have as far as the normal traditional classes, but they're also doing a homeschool band. So I do know that they're still looking for homeschoolers that might be interested in the band. And just if you want to get your kid involved in band, and two, build those relationships. Maybe your kid's spending too much time on games and they're spending too much time alone. Take them over to Mr. Perry's Music, sign them up for music lessons, let them be a part of the band, and then that camaraderie and that friendships that they'll probably have for the rest of their life, guys. It is such a good thing. I love it. But I love seeing the lights on late last night, and I know they were rocking the house. And they've got equipment. They have the handmade DR strings, the DR PB strings. If you want to talk to him about that, You can call for pickup 615-522-1155, 615-522-1155. A few days ago, he said he had the 9s or the 10s. So if you want to give him a call about that, but any equipment questions that you have, give Mr. Perry a call or just check them out. You can, of course, go to their website. Let me pull it up here real quick. It is mrperrysspringfield.com. mrperrysspringfield.com. Reach out to Mr. Perry's Music and give your kids just something that they will carry for the rest of their life. Have you ever met him?
I have not.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. And we've got a lot of kids in Robertson County that learn to play music. And they do some cool stuff. And you'll see them around because they'll do shows and things like that. So I'm sure you'll have the opportunity. But one of my kiddos is in one of the bands, and they play gigs now. That's what's so funny. They, I don't know, they've been at it a few years, but now they'll play weddings, and they're that good.
That is great.
Isn't that cool? So
that's great.
Talking with Dr. Danny Weeks, he is our director of schools here in Robertson County. They had the school board meeting last night. Now, you're always on the second Monday of the month, correct? Is this Tuesday?
Maybe an exception here and there. I think.
Well, I'm thinking because like Martin Luther King Jr. holiday will be next week, so that's going to push the commissioners meeting down a week.
Right.
And so typically when we have those holidays, it seems to affect the commissioners meeting more than the school board.
It does, right.
Pretty much, yeah.
I think November, maybe we've adjusted our schedule a little bit.
Yeah, because of the election.
Right. So there are a few days in there that we're not, but typically.
Yes. And so let's just kind of talk about the meeting. Can people just come in?
Absolutely. It is an open meeting. Sure. It is a meeting of the board. It's not a public meeting, but it's a meeting held in the public. And so sometimes people get confused with that. It's, people always have the opportunity to talk to their board members or talk to our administrative staff and have conversations as they need to. But the difference in a public meeting, it's not open just for general conversation. If people wish to speak to the board, there are procedures to do that, going through administration first, working through there. And then if there are complaints or situations or concerns aren't addressed, then they have opportunities to address the board. But it must be, there are several procedures within board policy that outline that. But again, it's a meeting that the public can view. We also record that and put it on our website, so it's up for. I think they do a little processing usually next day when it's up, but it's out there for people to see.
So what is the process for people who want to find out who their school board member is? How would they just call the central office and say, hey, here's where I live. Can you tell me who my school board member is?
That is the easiest thing to do.
Okay.
The Robertson County Election Office also can do the same thing. So if someone wanted to check that way, but I believe it's even on our website. If
like a map or something.
There may not be a map, but it's kind of by cluster, and I think it shows what schools each of our board members. They're elected by district. About 2 county commission districts make a school board district, and so if you have a general idea of the layout, but again, it's easy to call.
Say that again. The 2 county districts. What did you just say?
2 county commission districts make up 1 school board district.
Okay. I think that helps because I get that kind of question all the time because I do this and people think I have all these answers. And it's like, maybe I've heard it at some point, but I haven't necessarily retained that information. So I think it's one, we have so many, just the gentleman that was in here yesterday that I've talked about, he grew up in the area, but has returns in September. So he had a lot of questions about how things are, who's this and who's that and where are we and all of those things. So anybody that's new, and we have so many newcomers in this county constantly, that I think that's a question that they get all the time. Well, who is my school board member?
Yes.
Who do I need to talk to? Yeah. So, well, what else did you have going on at the meeting last night?
Well, I will also say we started off our meeting. We always have a group of students come in and say the Pledge of Allegiance. So it was nice. They are, and yesterday we had a special group come in from Greenbrier Middle School. They came in, and the middle school Bobcats came, and they presented the Pledge of Allegiance, and it's good to see them. Their parents come, and a lot of times we make pictures with those guys and things like that. But that's we start off our meetings by recognizing students. We also very, very typically, and I hate to say wish it happened a lot more often, but our school athletic teams that make it at least to state tournament levels and things, we recognize them, we bring them, their coaches in, celebrate that. So last night we had the opportunity to go back and celebrate the time with East Robertson High School volleyball and East Robertson High School football, who both made it all the way to the state tournament, runners up in their respective sports. So we met several of the players from each of those teams. Couldn't bring in every player and every coach, but several of the players from the girls volleyball team and the football team. And we also recognized the gentleman that was the Mr. Football for the state of Tennessee.
Yeah.
And so
What an athlete.
Mr. Groves did a great job. He's there. He
Spectacular.
represents himself well. He represents the school well. And so we're proud to recognize those students. And again, that's something that's very important to me as a director of schools is finding ways to recognize those students. And yes, it's easy to recognize people who make it to the state tournament, but we also want to recognize those smaller accomplishments. Everybody's not going to be an athlete that makes it to the state tournament, but finding students who do things well. You mentioned music and arts and fine arts. We were recognized last night by the Tennessee Arts Academy Foundation, which is a group of educators that plan professional development for art, music, PE, dance teachers. And so they have a summit in Nashville every year. It's a 5-day long seminar where they bring all the art teachers, all the music teachers together from across Tennessee. They stay in dorms at Belmont, and but they have access to just some phenomenal artists, Grammy Award winners. People who've been in movies, who've done plays on Broadway and things like that. And so people can come in and learn from those, but how do you do this, or let me show you my technique for playing this instrument, and then they can bring those things back to the school system.
How can I tap into
How
that?
can you do that?
I need to go to this.
So Mr. J.R. Baker is our fine arts coordinator for the school system, and again, we were recognized last night for having. We support that program. We support teachers to go to there and again, sometimes pay part of their tuition. Sometimes they pick it up on their own, but teachers can use that as professional development. And I'm sure, again, as a second year teacher, it's hard to find something that fits everybody when you're doing a training.
Oh, yeah.
And this is one of the best trainings. I'm not doing a commercial for Tennessee Arts Academy or anything,
no,
but they're
it
just
sounds
wonderful
wonderful.
for our teachers to get in and spend time with people that have done it and who've lived it, and so they can bring that back and bring those experiences back with their students. There's the track for administrators, and I've spent a couple of days over there, and being a musician myself, I enjoy going to see and hear and participate in those, and then they have a nice banquet one night, and so being able to participate there. So we recognize there.
When does that happen? What is the time frame?
I think it's about the third week of June, somewhere in there.
Okay, so it's in the summer. Okay.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's something that's very interesting, because that's one of the gentlemen I had in yesterday, because of his experience as a filmmaker. Just, oh yeah, I want you to come into the classroom.
Right.
I want you to be my sub. And I get you acclimated as a sub, so you
Right.
can sub. And of course, my kids are going to be like, we want him instead of you, Miss Vivio, because he's so cool and he's younger. And we got to give a shout out to Mr. Heinerman, driving the bus, got a bus full of kids, and they're listening.
How about that?
Hi there. How are you guys doing? So I don't know which school he delivers kids to. Let us know. But hi, kiddos. Thank y'all for listening this morning. This is your director of schools, and we love y'all dearly. And love you too, Mr. Heinerman. Thank you for what you do.
Great guy.
And
yes.
yeah, I mean, how many directors of transportations drive their bus?
Exactly.
Drive a bus.
Exactly.
So we appreciate you. We appreciate you, Mr. Heinerman. But the kids are going, yelling, because we just called them out on the radio. So. And we're continuing with a recap of the school board meeting last night. Our director of schools, Mr. Danny Weeks. If you have not met him, take a moment to do that. Try to, look him. You're around town. He came popping into my classroom the other day. Well, right before Christmas, and it was so good because it was before I had you on radio, so it gave me an opportunity to at least say hi before we had to meet on radio. So. I appreciate that very much. Come anytime.
Appreciate that.
Anytime.
Thank
so
you.
what else have you got for us?
Well, it's interesting you just mentioned our buses. We we had a bus that was involved in an accident earlier the year, and so we approved to, we received a little insurance money from that, and so last night we purchased another bus to replace that one,
Awesome.
and so they approved the bid on that. It's amazing how much buses are costing nowadays, and
A lot.
they are extremely in the $130,000-$140,000 range. So
That's crazy.
it is, and so we have a great fleet of buses. You mentioned Mr. Heineman; he does a great job of managing, all of the routes. Can you imagine? I mean, we have a large fleet of
can't.
buses, and getting to everyone's house, making sure they're zoned to the right schools, the right communities, and getting them there. Being on time every day, dealing with the weather, dealing with traffic, and most of our larger buses accommodate as many as 80 and approaching 90 students. So
That's a
can you
lot of
imagine
kids.
driving with 90
Well,
90
I've
folks
driven
behind
a
you?
bus before. I have.
And he's not talked you into driving this year?
Oh, he's tried. He's tried. I just do not have time. I don't have a spare free minute. Of course, my husband was the safety
Yes.
coordinator before he became the
Right.
the one of the criminal justice teachers, and so we got a taste of it. And I if his schedule accommodates, I'm sure he'd help out. He's just been doing some coaching
Sure.
and stuff too. So we both just don't have a spare minute, Mr. Heinerman. We really are just we're so busy right now. But I think people don't understand how cool driving a bus is. It's fun and it's not hard. And I can't imagine it's once you get the proper training, it's like, oh, I can drive this thing. Yeah. It's just different.
It
but
is.
once you learn and you learn to use those mirrors and things, it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And I guess too, I'm a farm girl. I grew up driving equipment on the farm, so it wasn't as intimidating for me. But I encourage anybody that, if you're looking for something a little extra, school bus driving, substitute teaching. You don't have to be full time, but they need people, and they would love to train you. They'll pay for your training with getting certified to drive a bus, and it's just a cool thing. And you'll get to know some kids.
And you mentioned it doesn't have to be that full time job every day for every morning, every afternoon. We need if somebody has. So they have their mornings open. We can work their schedules around where they could drive buses in the mornings, or just the opposite, if they drive in afternoons, or if they could drive every other day, depending on their schedules. We have a lot of people that can do that. I think we talked last time too about maybe just driving a ball team or a group of students on a field trip. You can substitute in that way and just be on call as needed. So. And a lot of positions like that, not only here in transportation, but food service, substitute teaching, lots of opportunities.
And too, that with the coaches and stuff, if you're a teacher and you haven't thought about driving a bus, that's something my husband has driven to some games because he's coaching the kids.
Right.
And so he'll just take the bus. And so he's done that a few times, and I could see that happening more and more, especially as he's in his first year. As he gets settled and kind of, gets his bearings. But I'm so proud of him. He's so much more organized than me. He makes me look so bad. But anyway, I digress. We're talking with Dr. Danny Weeks about our school board meeting last night and all the things. So we got about 20 minutes. What else have you got going on there?
Well, we mentioned students traveling and things like that. So we at every meeting we have an opportunity to approve field trips that students take, and so we take a look at students and groups that travel. We approve all trips that are overnight or out of state. And so if someone's going to a convention, they're going to spend the night at a hotel, a couple of nights or something. And a lot of our student trips at the high school level are scheduled like that. Organizational clubs, beta clubs, our CTE clubs, they're scheduled to have those events. And so teachers make application, they explain all the details, we review those to make sure they're good, and then when we do, the board approves those, and that helps us with an insurance purpose, but it also helps us to know where our students are, where they're traveling, and what they're participating in. And again, our school system has so many opportunities to fit whatever it is that student enjoys, whether we've talked fine arts, we've talked about academics, we've talked about, clubs and organizations that are social clubs and organizations, athletics, so many things that students can find to be involved in. And so, travel and just, the collegiality that's developed there, teachers taking their time to get to be with students outside of the classroom and to go experience those things. And so we had several trips that were approved last night, and there are several trips that are approved, each month we do that.
And that's good to know because as a CTE, that's one of our objectives as a CTE teacher, and that's a career in tech. I asked the kids yesterday, I said,
Yeah.
what does CTE stand for? And they're like, I said, career in technical education. And they want us involved in the clubs because it gives the kids the chance to kind of step out their comfort zone
It does.
and to stretch them a little bit. And that's something that I'm trying to get acclimated to is how to bring that into my, because I mean, that's the objective is really get that. I'm planning on doing something this spring, but I'm glad to know.
Talking about planning, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's one of those things that I need to figure out in the next couple of weeks what my objective is and what I want to do, and figure out who can possibly and then bring it to you. Do I have to know the number of students and all of that, or do I have when I present it as to the school board? Do I need to know? Okay, I'm taking 10 kids here on this day, or I'm taking 5 kids. So do I need to know my numbers by then?
And how much it's going to cost,
Okay,
and who the chaperones are, but when it
Okay.
comes to us, it's all planned out, it's all laid out. And so again,
Okay.
we're just checking to make sure that trips meet policies, that we have
Okay.
buses, transportation aligned, and
Can they go in private vehicles?
Uh,
Is that got to be approved?
that has to be approved as well. So
Okay.
again, that's,
Okay.
policies and procedures internally.
Well, see, that I'm learning.
Learning.
I'm learning. So when you mentioned that, I'm like, that's on my list.
Yeah.
Because I've got that, and I know it comes up towards the end of the year. It's after spring break,
Mm-hmm.
but if we're going to have a bunch of kids, and they've got to pay for it. How are we
Right.
going to fund it?
Exactly.
All of those things.
Yeah.
So, all right, Dr. Danny Weeks, Director of Schools, talking about the school board meeting last night. Where do you want to go next?
Let's go to early graduations.
Oh my goodness, and that's happening this weekend.
This week, yes, we have each of our schools have the opportunity. Students that for whatever reason, maybe they're accelerated students, and they just pushed right through school, and come winter time, and they finished all their credits and met all the requirements to graduate. So we allow them to graduate at winter, in the winter, rather than having to sit around
Wait
during
it out.
spring and wait
Yeah.
it out,
Yeah.
and so a lot of them have their life skills and their next steps in life planned out. Some of them are going to work, some of them are going in starting college and starting
Military.
military,
Yeah.
lots of things like that. And so that program has really grown. We have an early graduation for our students in the Phoenix Academy, and that program gives students some second chances and start over, and some flexibility that we don't have in our regular high schools. So we'll have our first winter graduation is this Thursday night, and then each one of our high schools, our traditional high schools, will have one planned over the next 5 to 7 days. So I think there's one Saturday morning, and then we move into the later part of next week. And so each of those, we used to have one large county graduation at wintertime, but the principals have approached administration and said, we'd like to have ours at our school and do it traditionally, so that a student who's gone to Greenbrier wants to go to Greenbrier. A student's going to Joe Burns wants to graduate from Joe Burns. So we have those ceremonies at the individual schools. We try to make it as traditional as we can possibly do, even though it's a smaller number of students. And so we talked about as soon as work was over yesterday, I had a stack of diplomas on my desk, and finished signing those right before the board meeting last night. So those are all signed and ready to go, and they'll be going back. But we'll start those graduations this week, and it's exciting to let students who, again, maybe they've accelerated and they've completed everything, or maybe they just know what they want to do. You mentioned they're planning to go in the military, and they know if they finish early, they can start their career earlier. And so, that's a good 6 to 9 month jump on some other folks.
Well, and one thing too, you have some that are doing dual enrollments, and I've got one student that she's been with me some, but she is going to have her she's going to have a what is it's not the BA or the BS, it's the associate's
degree.
She's got the associate's
Yes.
degree. I just couldn't grab it. She's going to have her associate's degree from I guess she's going to be getting it from Austin P. Yeah, associate's degree from Austin P. At the same time she's graduating. So some of them have accelerated in that degree. Man, they're just ready to go. They're ready to get into college. She's going into the medical field, and she's got a lot of education ahead of her. So the quicker that she can get things done, the more interested
and
is in doing
and
that.
taking care of those in high school.
Right.
You know, you're still kind of under that shelter of the high school and not
Right.
taking those first classes out
Right.
in college. So great opportunities.
There is amazing opportunities, and one thing too. So this is something that I found kind of a curiosity, and the answer is very clear. They finished early December, whenever we got broke for Christmas, and I was like, well, why are they waiting until January to let them graduate? So they are 2024 graduates, just like their classmates.
Exactly.
So if you were to graduate them in 2023, that kind of messes up the whole year of graduation. So
Right.
it's to keep them on track to have the same year that they were projected to graduate, to keep it in that calendar year, right?
Right.
That's the way I had it explained to me. So I was
If-
kind of surprised that they waited until January. So long.
And if you want to be real technical, their diplomas actually do say 23. It says that they
really?
completed in 23, but we do consider them the class of 24. That's what they
okay.
do. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
So again,
I'm learning.
we took care of those last night and have
Very
those
good.
signed and ready to go.
Awesome. I tell you what, let me pause and take my next break. We need to talk about one of our sponsors, one of our wonderful sponsors that bring this program to you. Barry and Rebecca Richards with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team, my friends in real estate. Talked a lot about them yesterday because Mr. Jocelyn that was in here, we got to introduce him to Barry Richards and Rebecca Richards. Well, mainly Barry because of his background as a vice president of a media marketing company. He understands what the Jocelyn's are doing, and they're looking for a property to build out to be more studio oriented. So I need to talk to him because he knows exactly what I'm trying to do. He's going to know where I need to go. He's going to know exactly what I'm looking for. And that's something that people, I think, sometimes forget. It's not just homes when it comes to good real estate agents. You've got, businesses and things like that you're interested, that you're looking for, or that you're wanting to sell. I know there was a historic business that they sold a couple of years ago that they were involved with. Historic properties, whether it be residential or business, they love doing that. The Richards, they live here in Cross Plains. They're Cross Plainians, been there 28 years. So they specialize in Robertson County properties, but also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky. Can't say enough about them. They help me so much with, if I have a project, I call them and say, hey, can you help us out? And they have helped out with things I'm doing at school with the audio video program. They've helped out with Open Door Pregnancy and Resource Center. You'll find them at the ball fields. You'll find them all over the place. Kilgore Station Bluegrass Festival. Barry is one of the ones that recruited me to be a part of that. So many things in the community. They're great friends of this program. And if you're looking for some help in real estate, maybe you want to be a real estate agent in the new year. You want to try something different. They can mentor you to that. Rebecca is one of the agents up in White House. Barry is the broker here in Springfield, has an office right on the downtown square. So connect with them today. You can Google them. Barry Richards, Exit Realty Garden Gate team. Rebecca Richards, Exit Realty Garden Gate team. They have independent web pages, independent social medias, and you can just give Becky a call, 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425, sellwithbecky.com, buy, B-U-Y, robertscounty.com. So many ways to contact them today. Always U-Turn Cincha. Continuing on with our program, weeks in his second month here, and just coming home, though. That's exactly what he got to do, and so we're excited for you and excited for what we have next. So what have you got next for us that we need to talk about?
Hey, I guess the last thing we'd like to talk about is just we always think about as we start and come out of the winter break, the legislature's starting to go back into session, and so it's always amazing to me the number one bill filing that goes through the Tennessee legislature always is dealing with public education.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
And so, there are lots of bills and topics that we're already hearing that are being proposed for the upcoming legislative session. And, it is prudent for our board and our administrators to know what's coming down the line and how those things would affect public education in Robertson County, how it affects education across the state of Tennessee, and how it affects our job and how it affects what you do in the classroom. And, the legislature has so much control over those things. So everything from funding to what textbooks we use and who's on the textbook selection committees and things like that. So what's taught, what the standards are taught, how teachers are evaluated. And, it's such a complex process again. And so so school boards, administration of schools, teachers, we need to be aware of what is being proposed out there, how it's being considered, and then what our response is to that, and how we can talk to our legislators and share our input with them, and try to help either influence what their decisions are, or at least educate them as to what our points of view are on there. And so last night we talked about, although the session hasn't opened, we talked about some topics, I guess, more so than specific bills that have been tossed around. And so we kind of broke those down for the board last night into educational funding. Funding, and again, education dollars are always one of the largest portions of the state budget, as well as they are here locally. And so we talked about several proposed topics that we think maybe proposed, maybe are carryovers from last year that didn't get passed last legislative session that may come into the continuation of this session. But again, just, we have a new funding formula in Tennessee that takes completely revised the way that educational funding came to school districts. And so that was completely a new thing. We're still trying to deal with it. We're trying to analyze it, and how does it compare to what we had? What are our projections? And so as we get ready to enter the budget session, that's very important to me as director, because we have to know what those dollars are going to look like and how we can better predict what those things will be. So several of the topics we discussed last night are just, some kind of analysis of the funding that's out there. But I guess the biggest piece that we talked about last night was there are so many laws that get approved that come with no physical support to them at all. So when a legislative body makes a law and says you must do this, or you shall do this, you provide training on this, you must require this, but then they don't provide the dollars for us and the resources for that. So exactly. So we talked about those. We call them unfunded mandates. Things that we're required to do, but there's no funding that goes along with that and support that goes along with it. So we talked a little bit about the unfunded mandates, and of course we always are opposed to those. Sometimes we have good ideas, but we just we don't have the funding to go along with it. So talking about, if you're going to require us to do something, you're going to require us to teach a new class, well, we need funding for a new teacher and for new classroom supplies and new books and new things like that. So we talked about that a little bit. Also, there's been a lot of talk about the educational savings accounts or the school vouchers. I know that topic's out there and it's been publicized a little bit. So we talked about our stance on what our board's positions would be on there. Again, we've not taken specific positions, or the board's not taken specific positions, but we've shared our thoughts around those. And if they want to come back and propose a resolution or propose, here's our position on that, and so that we can share that with our legislators, that's important for our board to be able to do. So the first topic was educational funding. The second one, you and I had this conversation the last time we were together, talking about educational licensure. The number of students who grow up saying, I want to be a teacher, as I did, go to a 4-year institution, major in education, come back and teach, that number gets fewer and fewer every year. And so the legislature and the State Department have been exploring ways that we can bring second career people in, bring people who have degrees and experience into our classrooms to help, or teach those classes that are needed. Not help teach, they do teach. But we've asked for more flexibility in that, because there are several laws that we cannot get around right now of some flexibility that is still needed. And so there was a whole section on talking about flexibility for educational licensing, still exploring high standards, high expectations, but having some more flexibility there. So that being the second topic. And then third, all around school accountability and curriculum. Again, one of the most controversial laws that I've ever seen passed, I guess, in my 30 plus year career, was last year when the legislature approved the bills that required students to be retained in third grade if they didn't pass the TCAP test. And, that impacted teachers, impacted students and families, require them to go to summer school and things like that. We've heard some expansion of that possibility to other grades. And so, again, discussing how that would impact our school system, how it impacts the number of teachers we need, summer programming and all those type things. So we talked about what our positions would be on that, and then curriculum topics, what's required to be taught, how it's required to be taught, and the accountability model for both teachers and school districts. And so those are the three big topics. Miss Demetria White, who is one of our school board members, she is our legislative liaison. And so she, through the School Board Association, through the Superintendent's Association, through the TEA, which is the Tennessee Education Association, and those professional associations, they all have legislative branches to them. And so it's Miss White's, she helps kind of keep us informed of certain bills when they do get filed, how we react or respond to those. We take a position in for or against those, and then communicating that to our legislators here. And so we have good relationships with Senator Roberts and Representative Kumar, and so being able to talk to them about, this is our position, this is how it affects what goes on Main Street in Springfield, and so being able to tell those stories, because sometimes, a bill that maybe proposed in Knoxville, we may think it doesn't affect what we do here in Springfield, but it does. And so, staying on top of that's very important. And, just watching those, and, it's another thing. You talked about time management. You got to be aware of what's going on when committees are meeting, what they're doing, and how to do that. And so just making our board aware, and we'll share this with our administration and our teachers as well.
And I think it's kind of, you got to keep your senator from your other county.
Yes.
He was, because that's one thing people don't realize. Our state senator covers many counties.
Yes.
And then our representative is just Robertson County. So you have one that's dedicated for our county as far as a representative, but the senatorial district is bigger.
Right.
And so it's a little bit, but you got to keep Senator Roberts.
There
you go.
I had Senator Roberts before I left, and enjoyed him there and as well here. So, yes.
So that's good that you have that relationship where he's
very good supporter of public education.
They're both wonderful.
Yes.
And if you missed, I'll try to share the show. While I was out, Lee Marie had Representative Sabik Kumar on, and that's something that I have had on my list of things to do, and I appreciate so much her bringing him in and just talking to him, and I'll be sure and share that, and we'll put the invitation out to get him in as well. I know as the legislative session starts up, and Kerry, Senator Roberts, has been just slammed because he teaches. He is an adjunct professor, and so he taught through December, and they're also doing they've got some development they've got on their property that's very exciting, and I think it's just wonderful for Robertson County. I think they're going to be tickled pieces whenever you get all the details about what's going on out there, but it's exciting. So he's been a little overwhelmed. So he's trying his best to get in here, but the session is getting ready to start, so there's going to be a lot of demands on their time, but we'll reach out to them as well. Anything else we need to cover in these last couple of moments?
I think that just about wraps us up.
Well, I love it, and it's always so funny. As I reached out to him via email and said, "Okay," and it's on your calendar, and I appreciate that so much.
Sure.
But oftentimes, everyone's like, "We're going to talk for an hour." Oh yeah, we'll talk about everything. It's fun. It's just sitting on the porch having a conversation, and that's one thing people, because I've been doing this for so long, I never hesitate to reach out to people that are in leadership, and whether it be the director of schools or any other, the mayor, anything like that. That's one thing that is just absolute here in Robertson County is the open door. Let me know if I can help you. Reaching out. I have never had anybody stonewall me and say, well, we'll get back to you. Not at all in this county. And I appreciate that so much. And I appreciate you, continuing to be a part of what we're doing here. Thank you so much. And we'll look forward to talking to you next month.
Sure
and I'll be really curious as to what happens with the weather over the next, because this is the next 4 weeks are the time that we typically have to deal with weather stuff. Wouldn't you say 4 to 6
they
weeks?
are, and again, if we have one
we'll
more
see.
second, I mean, the biggest thing is, if people want that message early, you and I used to have to get up and we'd have to watch television to find out where we were in school or not. But, now we're on Twitter. We have a school messenger service that calls every house individually. And so, it's so important that families keep that information up to date, and they can go in and self-service on our website, or they can call the school system and just, can you update my address, so that they're getting those phone call addresses, email addresses, or phone calls. And so we send out that message early. We try to make decisions so that families have time to plan. My goal is always to have that at very latest 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock on a night. But we really prefer to have a 4 or 5 o'clock decision made
Sure.
before the next day, if at all possible. If it's not and something surprises us in the morning, we're going to make decisions before 6 o'clock.
Okay. And that's what I appreciate it so much. I got a phone call from you last week,
Yeah.
just kind of saying, this is the policy. We'll call you,
Yeah.
we'll let you know. And it was just that informational call that we got. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I think, because I mean, that's on our minds right now. That's
Right.
on our minds. All the
Right.
kids are like, do you think we'll be out next week? Because it's going to be 0. I'm like, I have no idea. Stop asking me. But anyway, thank you so much, Dr.
Thank
Danny
you.
Weeks. And thank you guys for joining us here for One Street Over. That wraps it up for today. Be sure and join us tomorrow. We have a great show planned for you. Oh, the kids are going to be playing Grass Kiddos in here tomorrow. You don't want to be a part of it. It's going to be fun. This is 1100 WSGI. God bless. Have a wonderful day.